Good morning, everyone. We're welcoming you to the first edition of the Story Behind the Stories, a recap of the stories of the week from the Neepawa Banner and the Neepawa Press. And I'm Ken Waddell, publisher of the Neepawa Banner, Neepawa Press. With me is Kate Jackman Atkinson, who's the editor of both papers, and Owen Devereaux, who handles news and sports and a whole lot of other jobs at the paper. So we have a number of topics this morning that we would like to go over and review the news. So the first is the Neepawa town budget, which is a large story, both in terms of the story and in terms of the amount of money involved. So Owen, you've been covering that. What are your thoughts on the Neepawa budget for the 2017 year?
That's right, Ken. It's very interesting. Now, most people don't think that when it comes to crunching numbers that it's an interesting topic. But this year is a very interesting exception because there is a big ticket item in Neepawa's budget that they're finally moving forward on. That, of course, is the Lagoon project. It's something that they've been working on for several years, but they're finally moving forward with it. But in order to do that, they have to take a lot of money out of their reserves. And when I say a lot of money, I mean $10 million. This year, the general operating budget is $8.3 million, and the utility, where the lagoon is going to be paid for, is $12.7. What's interesting about that is, as I said, this year it's $12.7. Last year, the utility was $5.04. So that is a big increase year over year. Fortunately, though, the average taxpayer is not going to be feeling that in their own wallet. As I said, it is coming out of the reserves. So the property tax increase is going to be relatively minimal at about 1.99%.
Okay. So when they're talking about this amount of money and taking it out of reserves, because $10 million is an awful lot of money, what about, are they looking to get some provincial, federal funding on this too? Is that the hope?
That's a very good question, Ken. They are exploring that option as well. I talked to Mayor Adrian de Groot specifically about that, about where some other money might be coming in. He said they are looking at provincial options, they are looking at federal options. He also noted that the 10 million, 10.3 I believe, is what's set aside specifically for the lagoon. That might not be the total price. That's a little bit more than what they believe they're going to need for this project. They're taking it out of the reserves as a precautionary measure.
Have they talked about what exactly they're going to be doing with that money? Like, have they outlined what the project itself will be?
Well, Kate, not really. That's another very intriguing part of this entire story is they're taking the money out, they're planning on spending it. They're not quite sure just yet what they're spending it on. There's several rules and regulations and provincial guidelines that they're going to have to follow, but they're still trying to figure out those little subtle nuances. So when directly asked, what is the money going towards? Essentially their answer right now is, we're not sure.
And I got that same answer when I posed that question.
I was going to say, you've done some research
Well, a
into
little
this
bit,
as well.
yeah. We'll be doing some more on that. I guess having a little bit of experience from this file, I guess, over the years, obviously, is from being on council, is that one of the things that drives these kind of changes is that the government comes in and makes new regulations or upgrades the regulations. I think they're telling the town at this point, the environment department, that the lagoon is near capacity, and that on the surface may seem correct because the town has increased by 1,000 people or more in the last 5 years. However, what a lot of people don't remember is that in around 2000, when the lagoon at the old former Spring Hill hog plant went down and they just couldn't use it anymore, and although it was a lot smaller operation than it is now, obviously, but all that effluent was drained away from Spring Hill and over the hill and down the dale and through the woods and over the bridge, literally, into the golf course and into the domestic lagoon. And it handled all of that without too much problem. So I want to know some answers on that one, because I want to know whether we're actually at capacity or whether we're at a situation where somebody's changed the goalposts here and we can't kick the field goal anymore. And that I call it Kelvin ball. They're always moving the goalposts. That's an issue.
Yeah.
Well, with that point as well, Ken, I can't say this officially is the response from town council and the representatives from the town. It's something they have shared with me, though, is that they're not at capacity right now. They're getting there. This is more looking towards the future. As you said, our community has really grown over the last 5 years, and I expect it's going to continue to grow population-wise. So this is preemptive. They are making sure that once we reach those capacities population-wise, we're going to have the system that's going to be able to handle it.
Do you think people are interested in what the lagoon process is right now? You know, it gets ever so high and then they drain it, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's drained spring and fall. My understanding is with the new process, it'll be a higher level of treatment, and they'll be able to drain it continuously 365 days a year. And my personal concern with that has always been is why on earth in this day and age are we draining effluent into a river system, which is somebody else's drinking water eventually, and fish habitat and recreational, et cetera, and nutrient loading into not only the river but then into Lake
Full
Manitoba.
watershed.
Exactly. Why are we not putting it on the land as irrigation and fertilization, which is what they do at Carberry? And there's some questions as to whether we could actually meet those standards or not. But I think personally the Carberry system and the Roblin Golf Course system are far superior than an effluent to river system. At least we treat the sewage here before it hits the river, which is better than what they do sometimes in the city of Winnipeg.
Right.
But anyway, on a lighter topic, we have introduced a new column this week. Tell us about that.
Yeah,
Kate.
so I'll give a little bit of an intro about the new column we are going to have in the Neepawa Press. And if you read the news earlier in the week with the Neepawa Press, you will have read it, and you also will have read it if you have picked up the paper, which I hope you all have. And this new column is by a man named Kevin Slimp. And Kevin is sort of a newspaper guru. He speaks at a lot of conventions. He helps newspapers redesign their papers to be more reader-friendly. But this column isn't really about newspapers. It's about the small town that he grew up in, and it's set in the 1990s. So it's a little bit of a slice of a bygone era in a small town. This column has been running for close to a year in a number of papers in the U.S. He's had really strong feedback on it. And we've been able to pick it up going forward. So we're starting right at the beginning. The intro was in the May 24th paper, and the first official column will be in next week's Neepawa Press. So stay tuned for that, and we'd really like to hear people's feedback on that, whether they think it's a good addition or not.
Now, I have a problem with that.
What's that?
Well, you're talking about the 1990s as being a bygone era. If you're going to talk about bygone eras, you have to remember that I can remember 1955 very well.
Well, they're not using threshing machines here, so I guess it's not quite a bygone era.
I was just thinking the other day, I saw a vehicle for sale, and it was a 1990 vehicle, and I thought, hey, that's not too old. It's just 27 years old.
That technically can get vintage license plates now, though.
Yeah, you get collector plates on that, Ken.
Well, if 1990 is vintage, I was born in 1948. What does that make me?
You might get double vintage plates.
Does that mean double points?
Maybe.
Maybe. Okay, we've had a book come out on homesteading tied into the Bryden family.
Yeah,
Tell us about that, Kate.
Yeah, this is actually going to be an author reading that, excuse me while I flip open the paper. This is going to be an author reading that's coming to the Neepawa Library. And it's kind of an interesting story tracking some family genealogy, stories of homesteading on the prairies. And it was actually written by a father and daughter duo. It was a project initially started by the father a number of years ago before looking for family histories online became so easy. His daughter joined him in the project. They put together a book. The father unfortunately passed away I believe it was the day after the book was released. So it will just be the daughter, Diane Bryden, who will be speaking about the book. But it sounds like a really interesting read, and that's kind of part of a province-wide tour. They're coming to the Neepawa Library, but if there are any viewers in other communities, they're also making stops in Portage, Brandon, Winnipeg, a couple stops in Winnipeg, so that might be worth checking out as well.
Now, when was the Neepawa event going to be occurring?
Yeah, the Neepawa event is going to be June 1st at 5:30, and it's actually co-hosted with the local genealogical society. The local genealogical society. So if you have a bit of an interest in family history, this would really be a great event to attend.
Bryden family, long, deep roots in this community too. I think they're all tied together.
Yeah, I know it said that there would be some mention of the Neepawa Bryden family. So.
And you got some stuff for us on the, how do you like that, a good journalistic word, eh?
Yeah.
Stuff, on the Horticulture Society.
Yeah, the Hort Society held their annual plant sale last year, which is a fundraiser. Yes, they held it last year too.
Yeah, they did, yes, they do. They hold
If
it
that's
every
what
year.
an annual event is, Ken, they hold it every year.
Sorry, I'm duly corrected.
Last week they held their sale for this year, and it's kind of a neat opportunity. It's mostly perennials. There's some annuals that have been grown by members. As someone who is not a very skilled gardener, I enjoy buying plants at this sale because they seem to be very hardy. I have had good luck keeping them alive. So that's one of the reasons I like to hit the plant sale every year. So, people, they've missed your chance for this year, but there's still lots of opportunities to buy some great plants around. I know the Society would really like to see some new membership. So if you're interested in maybe learning, maybe like me, maybe you're not a great gardener and you're interested in learning some more, that's a great local organization that is looking for some people to be a part of it.
Now, the question I have, though, have you able to get those into the ground yet?
No, they're still sitting on my deck and on my window ledge. But the chives I bought 8 years ago have survived being run over, and they're still looking great.
There you go. We have a testimony to the strength of the horticulture.
Yeah.
Or at least their plants.
At least their plants.
Yeah. Yellowhead Arena. Yellowhead Arena has been around since 1971, Owen, and you've got a story for us on some things that are happening there.
Yellowhead Arena's been around since '71, and longer than I've been around.
It's a bygone era, too.
But just barely. It's very interesting, as a lot of people don't actually know in Neepawa and surrounding communities. The Yellowhead Center is not run by the municipality. It is run by a group of volunteers, a volunteer board. There's only 1 or 2 paid employees that are a part of it. So this is legitimately a community facility. And they've been working very hard. As a lot of people may not remember, there was about $150,000 worth of renovations done last year to bring it up to new standards. And they're moving forward with what could essentially be called Phase 2. Phase 2 is new arena boards in the arena itself and a new center ice scoreboard, which should be very interesting.
Those are great upgrades.
Oh yes, it's something that they've been looking at for an extended period of time. A lot of people have been clamoring for it. They feel as though new facilities, when you look at places like Dauphin, Portage La Prairie, Killarney, they have brand new facilities, but with that becomes a lot of debt because it's very expensive to build an arena nowadays. Neepawa is doing it smart, I think, in that they're taking what they have, there's still years left in it, and they're extending the life.
Yeah, a lot of people might not understand the history there either, because in about 67, 68, the Neepawa salt plant closed down, and I wasn't here at that time. I came up in 71, but there was a lot of consternation in the community because there was about 40 jobs there, and it had been a mainstay of employment. The facility was donated to the Neepawa Centennial Projects Inc. Board of Directors, and the hall is the old salt well warehouse. Many people know that, but a lot of people don't know that. So using existing facilities and upgrading has been a built-in cultural thing with that place ever since the get-go. And yeah, the $150,000 that was spent last year, I was told by the arena manager, our facilities manager, Ann Karski, that several $1,000s was saved last year on our gas bill because the new dehumidifier was so much more efficient than the old one. And it saved a lot of money on our gas bill.
And I would think there was some ceiling insulation upgrades as well,
Yes.
right? And that should have really helped decrease the operating costs of the facility.
Yeah, that was the claim by the suppliers, and it seems to be bearing that out, so that's good.
And interesting, I'll just quickly chime in, an interesting little sidebar to this is, since we're getting new arena boards, that brings up the question, what are we going to do with the old arena boards? So I'm very glad to see that they're not going to go to waste. I've heard that they are going to a local community. I haven't had confirmation on this yet officially, But I have heard from some sources that have suggested that it is going to the community of Kelwood, which is great to see.
I think that's in the works. I'm pretty sure that's what's going to happen, but yeah, we'll be following that story as well. Some upcoming 4-H festivities, Kate?
Yeah, this is just a really quick story. That we've got 12 members from local 4-H groups, and it's actually a combination of members from 2 of the groups, the Beef Club and the Bells, Bows, and Builders, and they're taking part in an exchange to the East Coast. And I had an opportunity to talk to, I guess it was about 7 of the students that are participating in this. I also got a chance to talk to 2 more previously. And it's going to be really interesting because they're also going to have 12 members come here, and the members who come here will actually be in the community over the annual 4-H the show and sale, and they'll be helping out there, which will give a neat opportunity for the non-4-H beef members, even the local ones, to see a little bit about cattle showing. I understand they're going to be catering at the event, and they will also be participating in a team grooming and stall cleaning competition. So
There you go.
A little bit of a different experience for some of those kids, both locally and from away.
We, in television, we have to keep things within a certain time frame, so we're getting close to our time. We've had the signal here, but maybe, Kate, you could tell us in a couple of words or sentences about your column this week.
My column is looking at some of the findings from the recent StatsCan release about the state of agriculture in Canada. This came out of the Census of Agriculture, and we're seeing, interestingly, we are still seeing the average age of farmers increase, but we are also seeing an increase in the number of farmers under 35, which is good news for rural communities like our own.
And Owen, I want to go to our last topic on the list. Maybe if we have a minute, we'll go back up the list here. But Neepawa Cubs season is underway, and you've been to the game and seen what's going on there. What's the story with the Cubs this year?
Oh yes, it is that time of year again, Ken. And again, it's great opportunity to support a local organization like the Neepawa Cubs. They've played, as of this recording, they've already played 2 games this season. They lost the first one, but their second game they ended up tying the defending league champions, and it's a great level of baseball. It is really fun to be out there. I hope everyone gets an opportunity to go out and to support the club.
Lots of local players on the team, lots of local faces.
That's the great thing about it. Every single player is either from Neepawa or from the surrounding region, so this is a community team in every sense of the word.
And Kate, you have an update on the Happy Rock Children's Center, I believe.
Yeah,
Gladstone.
they're really doing that last push to build their new childcare facility. They have the land. They purchased that a couple of years ago by the elementary school, and they're in the middle of their final blitz to really get that building built, which should be helpful. I know this is an issue not just in our region, but across the country, is the availability of childcare spaces. So it's nice to see that, something progressing in a community like Gladstone.
That's really great to hear that it's progressing like that. This is something that's been going on for so many years.
Yeah, this has been a real long-term project for that community, and they've really outgrown the space that they're in right now. So I'm sure that there's a lot of people in that area really happy to see this project nearing the end.
Okay, and to close off our show today, let's talk about Helen's Kitchen column in the paper.
Yeah.
And we can put it higher on the list next week
Yeah,
because it's an ongoing
it
thing
is.
for the whole
Yeah.
year, right?
So for quite a number of years, Helen Drysdale has been doing a column with recipes, but this year, in honor of Canada's 150th anniversary, she's done something pretty cool featuring some historic recipes, including pictures. This week we looked at some of the recipes for related to World War I, and we've got some pretty cool picture of some local soldiers leaving on train to head off to training. So next week she'll have another one, and it's been really interesting to learn a little bit about local history as we've gone through the ages.
Well, thank you very much, Kate and Owen, and thank you for watching today with the story behind the stories from the Neepawa Banner and the Neepawa Press. We plan to do this on a weekly basis, so we'll look forward to seeing you next week, and please give us your feedback. We'd love to hear from you. Thank you very much.
Thank you.